Now, in the next part of this problem now, they ask us to calculate the change in net working capital. And below that in the problem now, they tell us that we should expect accruals to go down 20,000, inventory to go up 50,000, accounts payable to go up 40,000, accounts receivables to go up 70,000, no change in cash, and notes payable would go up by $15,000. Now, this concept of change in working capital, the change in working capital is going to be the change in the current assets minus the change in current liabilities. If that turns out to be a positive number, what that means is that we expect to have to invest more in current assets than our current liabilities will finance. What that means is that that additional amount now has to be financed with debt or equity in the capital structure. So if the change in working capital is a positive number, that's going to be an additional investment that we have to make today. We have to go out and raise debt capital or equity capital and come up with that money. So a positive change in working capital, that indeed is an addition to your initial investment, to the present value of the outflows. Now, in this problem now, they tell us all these various things are going to change. So we first need to figure out, well, what's a current asset and what's a current liability? Well, the two current assets they talk about in this problem now, this would be the change in inventory and the change in accounts receivables. And if you add those two things together, you get $120,000. So when we go to buy this new roaster here, what we're going to find out now is that we have to invest another $120,000 into the asset, into current assets, right? How do we pay for current assets? In a normative sense, you should finance your current assets with your current liabilities. You match the life of the assets with the maturity of the debt. They tell us that our accruals now, if we buy the new asset, is actually going to go down by $20,000. They tell us that our accounts payables, on the other hand, will go up by $40,000. And they tell us that our notes payable will go up by $15,000. That means that our current liabilities will only go up $35,000. Our current assets, though, are going to go up for $120,000 now. That means we need $120,000 worth of financing, and our current liabilities is only providing $35,000. The difference between the change in current assets and the change in current liabilities now, that's the change in working capital. And that indeed is the amount of current assets that are going to have to be financed, not with current liabilities, but in the capital structure of the firm. We're going to have to go out and raise debt or equity to come up with whatever that number is. In this problem now, our current assets are going to go up by $120,000. We want to subtract from that the change in current liabilities, which is a positive $35,000. The difference is a positive $85,000. What this means is that in order to put this new asset in place, we need to go out and raise this much money today. If we don't, we won't have the current assets available to reach this new level of activity that we're going to get with this new asset. So current working capital is something that has to be financed, and has to be financed at the beginning of the asset, which means this is an investment that you have to make today, adds to the initial investment, the present value of the outflows. In this case, this project is indicating that we're going to have to invest an additional $85,000 into the cost of this asset today in order to make this a viable investment.